the Fill the Funnel podcast with Jeff Swan
and Tom Slocum.
We're here to help you crush your targets
with tactical tips and insights you can act on today.
Don't have a fancy tech stack, a big budget, or even a huge team to lean on?
Well, it's time to get that solved today with FTF Fridays.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Fill the Funnel podcast with your co-hosts Jeff Swan and Tom Slocum. Today we have an exciting topic that is on the tips of the tongues of everybody out there in B2B sales, and that's how to actually leverage social media for selling those big deals. So not those small SMB, maybe business to consumer type, but we're talking enterprise, full cycle, multi-touch, multi-stage deals. So to help us kind of talk about that topic in depth is our good friend Connor Dubé. Sorry, did I pronounce that right?
Dude, you actually got it right. That's amazing. Most people get it wrong. Woo!
There you go. Must be my Canadian showing. We pronounce shit.
I think there's a lot of Canadian or French doobies, which isn't, easy one. Most people say doob, dubois.
Yeah. Well, I also come from British. I'm living in Britich Columbia, so we're all about the doobies here.
There you go. Hey, dude, I grew up in Colorado. I mean, how could you have a better last name than Doobie?
You can't, man. You can't.
I was a designated joint roller for all of high school.
Clearly. That's awesome. So Connor, do you want to give our audience a little introduction into yourself? Tell them who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, born and raised in Fort Collins, Colorado. Go Rams. Spent my life in Colorado. I've traveled all over the world. I've lived in other locations internationally, lived in Spain. I've gotten a lot of great experience seeing the world, but Denver's home, man. Lived in Denver lived in downtown Denver after I left high school, went to college down there, and had an interesting upbringing. I grew up with a family of real estate agents. So my dad in the early days was actually franchising RE/MAX offices. That's how he met my mom at a conference. What happens in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas, and voila, here I am. So started, being around that. I was always hanging around, real estate agents are very entrepreneurial. So I think I kind of just got that energy from a very young age. I started my first business at the age of 7, where 9/11 happened, the Twin Towers went down, and I wanted to find a way to give back. So I took rocks from my neighbor's yard and my parents' yard, and I actually painted them with American flags, patriotic symbols. My neighbors are like, where the hell are all our rocks going? But it was for a good cause. If anybody's listening to this and you live nearby to me, and I raised a bunch of funds and I donated it all. And that was my entry into the business and sales world. So nice. I've always been passionate about sales, marketing. It just, from a deep level, fascinates me. I love studying it, researching it, and practicing it. Throughout my years, started a handful of companies. I went to college to get my marketing degree, which is a waste of time for me because I could have been probably steps and steps ahead of where I am today. But I had a unique experience there. So when I was when I was working my way through college, I actually started in door-to-door sales. And I did door-to-door sales for 2.5 years to pay my way through college, which is crazy considering that most people don't last 2.5 weeks, in that arena. Right. It's tough. I've had my ass eaten by dogs and, basically chunks taken out of the side of me. When I kind of started rapping on my door-to-door career, I ran across a family of nudists. That's for another story. But here's where I'm going with this and why this is an important period of my life is when I was doing door-to-door sales, I would go to people's neighborhood. And number one, I would hit a cul-de-sac and I would get triple the amount of meetings and appointments that other people who were doing the same exact thing would burn through entire neighborhoods, and they get a fraction of the amount of appointments that I was doing. I go to people's doorstep and they'd be like, what the hell, dude? You guys were just here last week, and isn't that your flyer on our doorstep? And I know I saw you guys at the Home and Garden show, and isn't that your television commercial on TV right now? They're like, you know what? Send me up for an appointment. So I did a couple things there that were successful. And it made me realize that, whoa, dude, this guy has seen us show up 10, 15, 20, 30 times before that yes came about. I approached him. I had a conversation with him. We'll dive into the kind of the approach here. But when I left college, I was either going to start another business, or my dad had this legacy company that I partnered up with him. And I took a lot of those principles I learned in door-to-door sales and applied it into this world of B2B sales, complex, long sales cycles. I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, people are people. And so that's where I've applied social selling very heavily in our own practices. And I've also, coached, trained hundreds of sales and marketing people on this. Grew an $11.8 million sales and marketing department right before I had, started partnering up with my dad. And that's kind of what leads me to where I'm at today.
That's awesome, Connor. Thanks for sharing, man. No, it's funny when you were talking about, putting yourself through marketing school while door to door. I kind of did the similar thing. So I guess you should have recognized a fellow smarketer here.
Respect.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I love to hear that you found that formula, and which is what we wanted to talk to you about today, is really how do you apply that formula to social? Because there's so many different people and so many different concepts out there around how you can do social selling, but there's very few people that actually do it well. Tom, any thoughts on the topic before we dive in?
I'm excited for this one. It's been a hot topic for a couple weeks. I love venturing out to see people doing it because I know a lot of our listeners are going to poke some holes in this, right? They may not have big social followings. They may not have a brand of their own. Their ICP or their TCP doesn't live there, right? So sometimes you get into social selling and you get, half the group to immediately turn off because they're like, well, it doesn't apply to me. But the sad part is it does. And there are ways to do it that I am seeing and I'm learning. It's just a matter of where your audience lives and doing it the right way, right? Being conversational. So I'm really excited Connor's here. We connected a while back through a mutual friend, and I've seen his social game. Add him on LinkedIn, check him out on Instagram. He's got a following, right? He does very well with his content and his brand and who he's engaging with. So I'm excited just to understand it even myself, to understand how to social sell. So yeah, kind of walk us through, Connor, what you've learned in the journey and how you've used social to land some of those bigger deals in your career.
Yeah, my favorite are those who kind of immediately disregard social selling. And again, I'm so pumped to be here with you guys. I can't thank you enough for letting me share this, because it's really important. The vast majority of people who I actually end up kind of helping out with this whole world are baby boomers. My favorite misconception is like, well, dude, I don't have a big social following. You don't need a big social following to be successful with social selling. The other is, my prospects don't work like that, right? My business doesn't work like that. That's my favorite, because at the end of the day, your prospects are people. And I guarantee you that if your direct prospect, let's say you sell to the CIO or the CTO, or you're trying to get appointments with the technology director or an engineer, they may not be on social or LinkedIn or active, but guess what? They have 8 to 10 influencers and decision makers within their organization who are. So people forget, first off, this is where I'm going to recapture those who would normally turn away from social selling and be like, oh, this is shit. Social selling. Come on, dude. This doesn't work in my business. You have many influencers and prospects, and social selling is not selling. Actually has nothing to do with selling. That's why the term is kind of very confusing to people. Social selling is more about branding, personal branding, and relationship building than anything. The same reason why going to a conference, to a trade show, to a networking event, to shake hands, to smile at people, to build a relationship, all those same principles apply in the digital world.
Connor, that's a really good point there, is that most people forget that social network is actually the network part, right? People
Yeah.
just forget that that word comes from what you just described there, going to a conference, shaking hands with people, sharing business cards, that kind of stuff. So what you're talking about is actually what it was originally meant for. And people just completely forgot that the whole point of the social is to network.
100%.
I love that you say that, Connor. I actually just recently heard kind of that same concept of, LinkedIn, Instagram, even Twitter, right, is blowing up now. You've got Greenhouse, Clubhouse, all these different things. And all they are is just giant scales to network. It's the same thing you're doing is just build relationships. The business will come, right? Half the time, even when you go to a conference and you just mingle with people, hey, I'm here, you come like a lost puppy, right? Hey, I'm just trying to find other like-minded people that I can maybe learn from. How are you, right? You share a little bit of back and forth. You ask about how they like that event or that hour discussion you just got out of, right? Hey, Connor, what were some of your thoughts on that? That's how you social sell. That's all you're doing is you're finding people in those conference rooms or those sessions, right, through the content that resonates, and you start dialogue with them. Maybe I find you, Connor, in the comment section of a post from somebody. Hey, Connor, I saw your comment. Really liked what you had to say. I'm really trying to branch out into this social selling. Can we connect? That's it, right? That's sharing your business card, and then all of a sudden the conversation potentially can get opened up from there.
Dude, I mean, spot on. People try to overcomplicate it. So it doesn't matter if you're cold calling, if you're emailing, if you're sending a carrier pigeon to get in front of your prospect, if you're doing anything in terms of like filling the pipeline. At the end of the day, you need two things. Otherwise, it doesn't work if you have one without the other. You need reach to enough of the right people. This is what social selling allows you to do. And number two, you need consistency, because we live in the noisiest, busiest, most distracted world. You're fighting coronavirus news, politics, shit that's going on in people's lives. Even though people love you, like you, may want to do business with you, if you're not reaching them in the right way, and if you're not consistently staying in front of them, because it takes, I believe it's more like 20 to 30 touch points now.
Yeah.
To start top of the funnel people talking to you, then you're going to lose no matter what you're doing, whether it is cold calling or traditional methods or networking in person or using social selling. They're all exactly the same. All the principles apply exactly the same. Here's another important concept. I had my rock over here somewhere. So for those of you that are listening, I have this like little pineapple emblem in my hand, right? Imagine this is a rock, right? Imagine you have a rock in your hand right now listening to this, and it's, maybe 2, 3, 4 pounds. Now imagine taking that rock and chucking it into the Grand Canyon with the expectation of filling up the Grand Canyon. It's going to take you an entire lifetime, if not more than that. And I'll be really impressed if you can pull it off. You're not going to be able to fill the Grand Canyon by chucking rocks in there. Now imagine you have that same rock, 2, 3 pounds, you feel it in your hand, feel the weight of it. Imagine chucking that into a kiddie swimming pool, right? How long is it going to take you to fill that pool versus filling the Grand Canyon? That is the equivalent to account-based prospecting and social selling, using all the tools at your disposal. It's not just about LinkedIn, guys. If you're in B2B, your clients are still humans. They're on all these digital channels accessible to you. You're going to fill that pool and have presence and awareness there much, much quicker than if you're just casting out and doing what people perceive as social selling, which is just blasting out the empty ecosphere by just worrying about likes and comments and, commenting on people's posts and sharing just content. There's a whole framework that has to come together to make it work.
That's awesome. That really good analogy, Connor. I love it. So if I'm going to summarize what you're saying there is that if you take the account-based approach and you really get intentional about what you're doing on social, then you're going to be able to be filling up a kiddie pool as opposed to the Grand Canyon.
And not only intentional, but this is where I really believe in my information here, because this isn't just me as a practitioner who wins with this. I've been able to apply this to hundreds of people who have also won very big with the same framework. So you have to have these 3 things in place in order to effectively implement social selling in a way that's hyper-focused. Number 1 is messaging. Quit using your social profiles like a resume. Turn them into a digital landing page for your clients.
Love
as an
that.
extension of the value that you provide. Not that I help people with that BS. Like, people don't resonate from a psychological perspective. People buy from their primal brain, right? Their frontal cortex is not how they receive information, and it's actually in their primal brain. So talk about them. Use the words you in your messaging. And this also has to do with how you're communicating with people, but in your social media profiles, social selling is positioning yourself as a marketer first and then a salesperson second. So use all the messaging to be hyper targeted towards the personas, the accounts. If it's an industry or if it's a job title, then that's how you want to position your messaging. Number 2 is engagement. And engagement is what brings the eyeballs to your messaging. So Tommy, you had mentioned, commenting and engaging on social media, viewing LinkedIn profiles, even a cold call. You guys realize a cold call is social selling if you're doing it right, because you call someone, what's the thing they're going to do before they call you back? If they're interested,
they're going to check you out. Yeah, they're going to
check you out on social media. If you just come across like a salesperson versus an authority in your space, then, you may not get the interest there. So engaging is important. There's 100 ways from sending video messages to engage on LinkedIn. That's my favorite approach, is I actually send videos to my prospects and teams of people. That's we could do a whole nother podcast on this, but engagement brings the eyeballs. And then content. You have to have content. You can't just have content and not have messaging, right? Because then your messaging doesn't have meaning for them. You can't just have messaging and engagement without content. All 3 of those have to tie together for you to be able to reach accounts and actually get conversations started with those accounts. So content creates the context. And I also like to say content's currency. The more content you put out that's valuable, it's coming from you, you're not just spamming shit blog posts from all over the internet, then those are really the fundamentals that get people to, funnel into your pipeline. That's how you fill your pipeline, dog.
That's how you fill that funnel. I love it.
Connor, that was a freaking masterclass. Thank you so much for joining us. We'd love to have you on again to actually have that other part that you mentioned. But for all our listeners out there, enjoy these quick tips. We'll see more on social media, more details on this. So thanks again, everybody, and happy hunting. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fill the Funnel podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite platform, give us reviews, and tell all your friends about us. Till next time, happy hunting.